So we're going to do a pit 65 on this character. We made some changes. We switched over to Call of the Ancients as our main damage dealer. We're also using Lunging Strike as our pseudo movement skill to get us closer to enemies when we're further away, and also to generate resources. Along with, we're spamming Rupture whenever we have Fury. And then we're also spamming our war cries because we're using the Martial Glyph, and that every time we use a war cry, we reduce our cooldown of Call of the Ancients by 2 seconds. So let's jump into this one. 65 is pretty good. We still have a lot of work to do in the gear, as you'll see when we go through gear. I haven't been able to get a single upgrade for my rings and amulets. We are using the runes that uses the Spiritborn's Vortex to suck enemies in, to kind of keep everything closer, because the ancients kind of like to do their own thing and go wherever they want to go. They see an enemy and they go there. So we try to use the Vortex, and we're casting it after we use so many resources. But as you can see, our cooldown for Call of the Ancients is pretty good. Just group everybody up, cast the Ancients, rinse, repeat, and spam Rupture as much as possible, because Rupture, hitting a healthy enemy, can reset the cooldown for Call of the Ancients and our skills in general. And sometimes I still go and hit the war cries before I hit my ultimate, which that's just getting used to the build. But as you'll see when we go through gear, we still have a lot of work to do, because we're not res capped right now, like I was talking about. We haven't been able to get a upgrade for rings or an amulet slot, and we've been farming pits for the last week, pushing, trying to improve the build. But we haven't had any luck with those specific spots. We're still using regular legendaries, so that's kind of disappointing. But eventually we'll hit some usable items with some greater affixes that we can use. We're missing a lot, missing that third tempering spot. And then we still have some other gear too that we need to work on, because it's not tempered the way it should be. Not optimally, I should say. We've got a few pieces that are actually really good. And then we also have to work on our gems as well. Our gems are still lower level gems. Well, not lower level, I should say. They're the step before the best gems. So we still have some room there. So we're leaving some damage on the table with those, and some survivability with defenses. But all in all, I mean, we're doing pretty good. We've been here in the game for, I want to say, like a week and a half. And casting our ultimate a little too fast there. So we'll go in here. Just like that, easy peasy lemon squeezy. So glyphs we're using Executioners, Ire, Rumble, Martial, and Territorial for the damage to close. That will be replaced eventually once we get some more damage to close on our gear and can drop this. But I'm gonna hit these up, and then we'll get back with the gear that we have. Alright, let's talk about some gear. Right now, we're using the Ugly Bastard Helm. It's giving us Aggressive Fury, Prolific Fury, and it's also going to give us a chance, 40% chance to deal 10,000 damage as fire damage. And then we also deal 100% increased fire damage. We're using Rage of Harrogath, crit chance, and damage reduction to bleeding enemies, and then inflicting bleeding has up to a 30% chance to reduce the cooldowns of our skills by a second. Ideally, we would want this one to be a higher roll. It's almost min rolled, but as you've seen in there, we're doing pretty well with having Call of the Ancients uptime up there. Next, we're using Fist of Fate. I got a 2 GA pair with attack speed. I would like to have crit chance to the other one, but lucky chance to make enemies vulnerable on hit. Making enemies vulnerable is just another damage multiplier that we get to dip into that bucket. And we crit on the attack speed twice, which is awesome. This one we crit on the crit chance. And then the main unique that we need for the build is a Terra's Bearing. Reason being is that each one of the Ancients does a specific move. Korak uses Earthquake when he leaps. Tarlek uses Dust Devils. Mardwick uses burning damage with his upheaval. The main one that we're scaling is the Earthquake. And then we crit twice on the ultimate damage and one on the cooldown for Call of the Ancients. Next is boots. Strength, life, levels the Warcry, movement speed. We hit Earthquake size. You can also use the Rupture size as well to increase hitting healthy enemies to get that cooldown some more. Next, we went with our two-handed mace, and this one is strength, life, crit damage, damage while berserking, and ranks to heavy hitters. Eventually, we're going to re-roll this, and we want to get the ranks to heavy hitters up. Reason being is that heavy hitters gives you ultimate damage. Earthquakes and Dust Devils do more damage, and then it's just a more damage multiplier. Sword we're using the third blade. We're using this because it makes Rupture not have a cooldown. So as long as we have Fury, we can cast Rupture. This one is going to be replaced. I have this one down here that we have a GA strength and weapon mastery damage. Vulnerable damage is almost perfect, and we kind of have a crappy roll on the effect, but we want to hit the double crit. I would like to at least hit a double crit on the strength for this, but we need to get some masterworking materials. Next is another sword. Strength, life, critical damage, damage to close enemies, ranks to heavy hitter. Again, this one I would like to hit either the crit on. I would like to hit the crit on the heavy hitter, or strength, preferably heavy hitter, so we can get that more damage multiplier up there. And then we have our polearm. We have GA strength, life, resource cost reduction, and then damage to close enemies and heavy hitter again. When we hit this one our last time, I would like to hit the heavy hitter again. These right here, these 3 pieces of gear have been the bane of my existence, as I have not been able to get anything any better. Our amulet is okay. Strength, counter offensive, heavy-handed, and then damage to close enemies and earthquake size. We need to get this one as a ancestral, and then let's go back over. I missed the legendary aspects, so we're using Relentless Berserker on the boots, and that is so that way our damaging enemy with core skills has a 33% chance to extend duration of berserking by 2 seconds. So as long as we're berserking, we're doing more damage. We are going to use the earthquakes aspect for this one, and that's because our earthquakes deal, we got a perfect roll as 120% increased damage. On the sword, we are using executioners, and that again is our overpowers will spawn earthquakes. So whenever we overpower, we're going to spawn an earthquake. And on the polearm, we're using ancestral echoes. Leap, upheaval, we're going to have a chance to summon an ancient doing the same thing. We're not using that because we're not using leap, upheaval, or whirlwind. What we're using it for is for the summon damage, and the summon damage doing, we have a 74% almost GG roll, but we still have a little work to do with this one. We can get some better gear here. So back onto the banes. We're using Apologetic Fever on the amulet, and that is when we cast an ultimate skill, increase our ultimate damage by we have a 13.2% and up to 132% at 10 stacks. Our cooldowns are reset. So that's huge. Cooldowns being done. Again, that makes us Warcry. Lets us do Call of the Ancients more. Here, we got strength, crit chance, resistance to all elements. We hit Call of the Ancients cooldown reduction, and then could not get the last one. We hit damage while Wrath of Berserker. We want damage while berserking. Reason being is that when we're doing berserking, then our summons get more damage, and it's just a ball. This one, attack speed, crit chance, resistance, Call of the Ancients cooldown reduction, and then basic damage. Again, we want damage while berserking. We've been going and hitting our obols trying to get rings, but we haven't got any good rings yet. And then we would want the unique ring, the unique ring, the Starless Skies, I think it's called, is the ring that we would want for this build, for the crit chance. Talk about some issues that I'm having with the build. Right now our resistances are not capped. Shadow, Poison, and Cold are still doing very bad. That's because our rings and amulet, we're missing another 10% here from the implicits, 5% from the amulet, and another 5% from the rings. Preferably we'd also like to hit another 10.5%, or I think it's 12.5 on ancestral items. Either on one of these. We also need to work on our gems. Our gems are not grand, they're all royal. Yeah, royal. We're still working on getting them all grand. So we're missing a lot of strength, we're missing a lot of critical damage, and then we're still missing a lot of armor. Ideally, we'd also like to drop this ring from the resistance and get that as a skull as well to put us at armor, to give us armor cap. But those are the main issues that I'm having with the build right now. It's just time. But eventually we'll get there, and we'll have a bunch of good gear. Again, I want to thank everybody who's watched the video. Anybody who's liked any of the videos, commented, subscribed to the channel. I appreciate you all. And I will catch you guys on the next update for this build. Thank you.